The message was fine. You knew it was fine the moment you sent it. And yet here you are, 9 minutes later, reading it back. Not for the spelling, not for the tone, but scanning it carefully for whatever you might have accidentally revealed. The word choice, the timing, whether the period at the end made it sound cold. It didn't. You know it didn't. But you'll check once more anyway, just to be sure. Most people treat overthinking like it's anxiety wearing a different coat, a nervous habit, something to breathe through, meditate away, or simply decide to stop doing. And that framing, while not entirely wrong, misses almost everything that's interesting about it. Because the mind that overthinks is not simply a worried mind. It's a precise mind that hasn't been given a target. It's not running in circles because it's broken. It's running in circles because it was built to run, and no one told it where to stop. There's a certain kind of person who processes the world this way, and the frustrating thing about them is that they are often the most capable thinker in the room, sharp enough to see every outcome, careful enough to weigh every possibility. The problem is that this quality, when it runs unsupervised, stops being a strength and becomes something else entirely, a loop that feeds itself. In 1927, a Soviet psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik was sitting in a restaurant in Vienna when she noticed something unusual. The waiters had an extraordinary memory for complex unpaid orders, and almost no memory for the ones they'd already settled. The moment a table cleared and a bill was paid, those details simply vanished. She took that observation into a laboratory, and what emerged is now called the Zeigarnik effect. The mind holds on to unfinished things. Incomplete tasks, unresolved conversations, decisions that haven't fully closed, these stay active in working memory in a way that completed ones simply don't. The brain keeps them open, like tabs it's not sure it's done with. Now apply that to the mind of someone who overthinks. When you replay a conversation from 3 days ago, your brain has flagged that interaction as unresolved, not because something actually went wrong, but because it couldn't confirm that everything was fine. No clear signal of safety was received, so the file stays open, and the mind keeps returning to it. Not out of anxiety, out of its own logic. Unfinished business gets reviewed until it's finished. The problem is that most social interactions don't come with a receipt. There's no confirmation that you were understood or read correctly, or that the period at the end of your message didn't make you sound cold. So for a mind wired this way, the loop has no natural closing condition, and it keeps running.
This doesn't start in adulthood. In most cases, it started much earlier. Think about what a child learns in an environment where the emotional temperature could shift without warning, where the right response wasn't obvious and reading a room correctly made a real difference. That child's brain does what brains are built to do. It adapts. It learns to stay alert, to monitor, to run contingency plans before they're needed. Not because the child was anxious by nature, not because something was wrong with them, but because in that particular environment, paying close attention was how they stayed okay. And here's what's remarkable about that adaptation. It worked. The child who learned to anticipate reactions, to review their own words before someone could misread them, to stay one step ahead of a shifting room, that child navigated things that other children didn't even register. The difficulty is that the adaptation doesn't retire when the environment changes. It becomes the default setting. The nervous system that once scanned for real shifts in a real room now scans for potential shifts in a text message. The mind that once needed to anticipate real reactions now anticipates hypothetical ones. The threat level drops, the monitoring doesn't. There's also something else here, something that doesn't get described accurately enough. Consider the experience of writing a simple email, asking to reschedule something. The overthinker writes it, reads it back, decides the word unfortunately implies they're inconveniencing someone, removes it, decides the new version sounds too casual, adds a different softener, reads the whole thing back from the recipient's perspective, wonders if the subject line is too direct, rewrites the subject line, returns to the body, reads it one more time, and then sends something almost identical to the first draft, except that first draft took 9 seconds. This one took 22 minutes. And there's a specific, very particular exhaustion that follows, not from doing anything wrong, from doing something completely ordinary in a way that costs 10 times what it should. There's also the rehearsal habit. The overthinker doesn't just replay conversations after they happen, they prepare for them before, running every likely version, the possible responses, the backup plan if the conversation takes a different shape. By the time they walk into the room, they've already lived through 4 versions of it. And when the real conversation goes differently, which real conversations almost always do, they have to abandon the script mid-sentence and rebuild on the spot while the loop is still running underneath. And beneath both of those is this: the overthinker is almost never cruel to other people in their imagination. They are almost always the one who causes the problem, misreads something, says the wrong thing, is misunderstood. The simulations run against themselves first. Not weakness, not a personality flaw, not something to be corrected the way you'd fix a leaking tap. What you're looking at is a mind that learned precision in an environment that required it. A brain that built early on the most sophisticated internal monitoring system it could, because the cost of being wrong once felt real. That system is still running. It's just no longer pointed at anything that needs it that much. The overthinker is not someone who thinks too much. They're someone whose thinking hasn't yet found its proper scale. The same processing power that loops at 2 a.m. is the same processing power that catches what everyone else missed, that understands a situation 3 layers deep before anyone else has reached the surface, that holds complexity in a way most people genuinely cannot. The capacity is not the problem. The direction is.
And this is where it becomes useful to actually know. The Zeigarnik effect has a correction built into it. The loop stays open when the brain doesn't have a resolution. Give it one, even an imperfect provisional one, and the loop closes. This is why writing a thought down fully works in a way that thinking it through again doesn't. The act of externalizing it tells the working memory that the task is done. The file can close. The second thing, the overthinker's instinct is to resolve uncertainty by thinking harder, but research by psychologist Timothy Wilson at the University of Virginia found that overanalyzing reasons for a decision often makes the outcome worse, not better. The analytical process disconnects you from the quieter signal the mind was already sending. Sometimes the answer isn't more thought, it's a small action that creates new information. The loop feeds on uncertainty. Action dissolves it. If this kind of content resonates with you, you can stay connected by subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss future uploads.